Let's get rid of this. Okay, there we go. Hi everyone, Aja here with Lila Baby, and I have a special guest today. I'm so excited. This is our second live stream. You may or may not know this is our second live stream on YouTube. And today we have our very first special guest, Jessica McKee from Good Baby Lactation. We are wrapping up Breastfeeding Awareness Month, and we have been through our social media channels bringing tons of education and different activation giveaways. So we wanted to wrap up the month with this special lady here, and just to support this journey more for anyone who needs it. So if you do know anyone who would benefit from this conversation, please go ahead and either send them the link to this video, or this video will stay on our account. There's like a train going by, excuse the background noise. We're in beautiful Ventura County, and so without further ado, let me just introduce this really lovely lady, Jessica McKee. Like I said, Good Baby Lactation. She is an international board certified lactation consultant.
Why did they make the name so long?
IBCLC. She's also a NICU nurse at Children's Hospital, and which holds a very special place in my heart. She is a mother of two. She has one on the way. She's in her final stretch. And we're just really honored to have her today to share some of her knowledge. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having
Jessica.
me. Thanks.
And Jessica, if you could just explain what an IBCLC is,
Yes.
what you do, and
I'd love to. It's a long credential, International Board Certified Lactation Consultant, but it's the highest level of credential you can get for lactation consulting. So there's lower levels like breastfeeding educator or certified lactation consultant, and then the IBCLC is the international one. So anybody in the world that has that certification, they all took the same test. So lots of classes, lots of hands-on practice, and it's the expert in all things lactation, which is unique because it involves a baby and a mom. It involves two people working together.
here's our baby for today, Antonio Bruno.
So yeah, I love it. I've been doing it for a couple of years now. I'm on a little break right now because I'm having my baby, but hopefully I'll be back to be doing the consults in the next couple months.
So nice. Well, again, thank you for being here. Now, as a certified lactation consultant, what's your main goal in helping families?
My main goal is to support them in whatever breastfeeding looks like to them. So if they want to breastfeed for 2 weeks, I want to make that the best 2 weeks ever. If they want to breastfeed for 2 years, I want to support them to breastfeed for 2 years. There's so much to know about it and so many hurdles that you can meet along the way. So my personal goal is to just educate and empower and inspire people to make whatever goals that they've set for themselves for breastfeeding.
I love that. Now, Jessica can be found at Good Baby Lactation on Instagram, or through email. I'll let you share that later on. She does virtual consultations as well as in-person consultations, which I don't think you're doing right now.
Yes, I'll be back to it soon.
She'll be back to it soon. So just really great work. I'm a mom of two, and every breastfeeding journey is different. So with my firstborn, it was just very natural. It came to us very easy. The second one, we struggled.
Yeah.
We really struggled.
You kind of think, I know what I'm doing. I've done this before, but I would say same boobs or similar boobs,
Right.
but different baby.
Right.
There can be so many different challenges with each experience.
Absolutely.
So that's really common experience.
And luckily, my insurance covered my getting a certified lactation consultant to come to my home and really help us around day 10, because I don't think we were going to make it much longer. So if you have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat box. I see some people saying hello. Thank you so much for joining. Hello. We're really working our eyes.
I
right?
know.
The phone is kind of far away. So I actually prompted some questions in our Lila Baby community. This is for everyone. This is not just for Lila Baby parents. Just please invite any parent that you think would benefit from this. But I'm going to start off with a couple of questions that we got beforehand. And if you have any questions, please feel free to just drop them in the chat box and we will get to them, I promise. Also, if you're not already subscribed to our channel, please go ahead and subscribe. We will be doing these live streams every month with baby wearing education, various topics. Today we are just discussing, breastfeeding education, support, the benefits. And when you bridge that with the benefits of baby wearing, it is just a complete game changer, okay? So
Totally.
we're gonna, after we go through some questions, we'll do a little demo, and hopefully we'll be able to help some of you.
And I'd love to say too that breastfeeding also includes pumping and bottle feeding. Some people think that we just mean only breastfeeding, nursing, but it also includes pumping and bottle feeding, which a lot of people do and a lot of us do because we work, or people do it by choice, or they have issues latching their baby. So it includes all of those things.
That is so important. Thank you. You're absolutely correct. All right, so let's see. So speaking of breastfeeding, let's start at the very beginning because I feel like this is a question that a lot of new parents have. Is my baby getting enough milk? How do I know that they're getting enough milk?
That is probably the biggest cause of stress that I see, especially with social media, and we see pictures of maybe milk that people have pumped and we think, oh, am I supposed to be pumping that much? Or how do I know my baby's drinking that much? Or how do I know my supply is good when they're reading things about supply? But the best way to know is by your baby's diaper output. So after about day 4, they should be making 6 wet diapers a day. And if you put 3 tablespoons of water in a diaper and kind of feel how heavy it is, it should be 6 of those. And then they should be pooping at least once a day. So that combined with weight gain, which we always expect babies to lose a little bit of weight when they're born, but they should regain their birth weight when they're at about 2 weeks or so, by 2 weeks or before. So they should be getting back to their birth weight, peeing and pooping plenty. And then after that, you can kind of just watch that their diaper output stays good and that they're meeting all of their milestones and staying on their unique growth curve.
Good to know.
So if your baby seems satisfied, you're feeding them, they seem satisfied, they don't want any more, they're peeing, they're sleeping, they're meeting their milestones, then you know they're getting enough even though you can't measure it, which we would love to be able to do.
Right.
You can measure it with a scale. If I came and did a consult with you, I would weigh the baby before and after they eat. Which is helpful. It's just a moment in time, so it's not like that's exactly what they get every time. But it is helpful to know if you're having breastfeeding struggles. Are they getting enough from the breast, or do they need to be supplemented with pumped milk or formula? So we can weigh it, but you wouldn't be doing that on your own every single time you feed your baby. That would be too much.
So you mentioned how breastfeeding is bottle feeding, it's pumping. If someone wants to exclusively go for feeding from the nipple, from the breast, when is it okay for a bottle to be introduced? So if you're breastfeeding, but then dad or a caregiver wants to jump in, or partner wants to jump in and help, like when can they start using a bottle and not cause that confusion?
I usually recommend doing that around a month old, like 3 to 5 weeks.
Okay.
Obviously, if you need to supplement your baby, there's multiple ways to supplement. You can do it with a spoon or a cup. That's a different way to do it. But if you're supplementing with the bottle early on for the baby's weight gain, then that's fine. You're not going to sabotage the breastfeeding relationship. But if you're not needing to supplement at all, I usually recommend it about a month old. If you wait too long, then lots of people introduce the bottle maybe right before they go back to work, and then the baby rejects it because they're not used to it. But when babies are young, they have a suck reflex, so they'll pretty much accept anything that they're offered. And when they're older, that reflex goes away. So I usually recommend about a month old, and it doesn't cause confusion. It can cause a bottle preference if you're not using a good bottle feeding technique. So you want to use a bottle that has a good shaped nipple and hold the bottle more parallel to the floor instead of tipping it down and making it go super fast. When it goes super fast, that's when the babies are like, ooh, this is easier than breastfeeding. Breastfeeding, they have to work a little harder for it. But yeah, usually about a month old.
Okay, that's great. Let's see, should latching and sucking be painful?
No. Contrary to what people will say, oh, you just gotta get used to it, you gotta toughen up your nipples. Some people will recommend, oh, you gotta rub your nipples before you give birth, like with a washcloth to make them like used to friction, which is absolutely not true. No. If it's ever painful, then you know that the latch could be improved. So when the baby is latching optimally, your nipple's actually going, if this is the baby's mouth, your nipple's going all the way to the back of their mouth, not biting it like this. So if you take your baby off and your nipple looks pinched or has a stripe on it, or it looks like a lipstick, then you know they were kind of chomping it with the front of their mouth. And really, if they're opened up wide, it should be in the back of their mouth, and the back of their mouth is soft.
Right.
And that's when it wouldn't pinch. So if it's hurting, or if you're having nipple damage or bleeding or cracks or something like that, then there's something that we can work on. It's not something that you just need to just like grit your teeth and bear it. Like it shouldn't be painful.
So as a mom and a healthcare worker, do you feel like parents get enough support in the hospital
No.
for breastfeeding?
No.
No.
I don't, and I wish that we could. Our system is just not set up to educate you in the time that you're in the hospital. Because the hospital's goal is to get you in, you have your baby safely, and then discharge you, not stay there for a very long time. And there's just so much to know. And when you're in that time period where you just gave birth, you're not absorbing information very well. Like you kind of need to hear the information multiple times. So that's why I think educating yourself prenatally is really key, because the hospital isn't going to do it for you just because there isn't enough staff and there isn't enough time, and it's just not set up to be giving you all this one-on-one attention for the amount of time that you really need.
Right. I have to agree.
Yeah.
I was trying to remember everything, and I got the pamphlets, but then when I got home, I'm like, ouch!
Yeah, it's like in one ear and out the other.
Let's see. How can we boost our supply, our milk supply, if needed? I know that's a common question, and I know in this day and age there's so many supplements and cookies and things, and they tell you eat oatmeal and things like that. Drink a lot of water. But what are some proven techniques to boost the milk supply?
The main thing to do is, in general, it's all supply and demand. So if your supply is low, if you increase the demand more by nursing your baby more or adding in some pumping in addition to nursing your baby, then you're going to increase your supply. The important thing to know is, do you really need to increase your supply, or do you just think that you need to increase your supply? Because if your baby's eating and they're growing well and they're satisfied, then your supply is fine. Some people are oversuppliers and they might have extra. Their babies might space out their feeds a little bit more, or if they pump, they might have more to store. Some people are undersuppliers and they might pump 20 times a day and still not make enough. And then some people are what I call just enoughers, and their body has really regulated to exactly what their baby is demanding, and that's perfect. And we would never know that it was a problem maybe unless we saw the volume that we're pumping. So if it's somebody struggling with low supply, they should be working with an IBCLC to find the root cause of why their supply is low. So it could be because the baby's not latching well, so the body doesn't know that it needs to make as much milk. It could be because they're pumping and they're using the wrong settings and the wrong flange size. It could be that they're just not, maybe they just went back to work and they're not pumping enough. Or it could be that they just physically don't have enough milk making tissue. So no matter what they do, that part of their breast hasn't developed enough to be able to make a full supply. So it's important to know, why is my supply low, and then a lactation consultant can help you troubleshoot. So you can eat all the cookies in the world and all the oatmeal in the world, and some of those things are very popular in certain cultures, like the all new moms will eat, or some people will swear, when I eat oatmeal every day, I do see a difference in my supply. And for some people that is true, or they'll take certain supplements and they do work. But if you're only nursing your baby, you're only pumping twice a day, but eating like a million cookies, the cookies aren't gonna make up for the lack of removing the milk. It's kind of like an additional, might help you, might not, as far as the supplements go.
Great information, you guys. Jessica is dropping nuggets. So again, please go ahead and share this video. What supplements do you recommend?
Lactation consultants are not allowed to prescribe supplements. So if you're interested in them, it's just good to get together with a lactation consultant who can give you an individualized plan and maybe educate you on certain herbs and certain, they're called galactagogues, the foods that might help increase our supply. There's also a really great book out there called Making More Milk that goes very into detail, but in simple terms, it's for everyone. It's not for healthcare providers, even though it's a very valuable resource to me. That kind of gives you a rundown on some of those things. Fenugreek is the most popular one that you will see people recommending,
Yes.
but for some people that actually decreases their supply. So some people will start taking the fenugreek and then they're like, wait, I feel like I'm making actually less, and it's because of the fenugreek.
Oh, no.
So a lot of companies now make fenugreek-free lactation supplements,
Okay.
but IBCLCs can't recommend certain ones or prescribe certain ones. It's very individual based on what you need.
That makes sense. Now, should a nursing parent be increasing their water or food intake?
No, you want to make sure you're definitely nourished. Like, you shouldn't be in a calorie deficit because your body's going to be doing everything it can to make milk. So for your own health, you should be eating plenty, variety of foods, nutrient-dense foods, and that's something that's really common. And I think I struggled with my other kids. Like, just you're so busy, and then you kind of forget to eat. So you definitely do want to make sure you're eating enough. Like over 2,000 calories a day, I would say, but this isn't my level of expertise, my area of expertise. But just making sure you're eating like nourishing foods and balanced foods. And then water. Some people think I need to drink more water to make more milk, but it doesn't really work like that. You don't need to force yourself to drink gallons and gallons of water a day. If you just drink to thirst and your pee is pale yellow and you're hydrated, then that is totally sufficient.
That is really good to know.
Some people are like forced drinking.
Trying to go for that gallon a day.
Or some people are like, oh, my mother-in-law told me I need to drink milk to make milk. I'm like, no. So they're trying to drink all this cow's milk, and that's not how it works either.
That's so funny. So speaking of pumping, you mentioned something about the flange size.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you know what? Excuse me, you guys. I'm gonna just close this.
Delivery guys.
We've got trains and delivery guys. Okay. All right. So how would you know if you have the proper flange size if you are pumping?
I love helping people with pumping. Okay, so the old thought used to be if your nipple rubs in the tunnel, it's too small.
Mm-hmm.
So people usually tend to use too big of a size. In addition to which, the pumps come with two sizes, usually 24 and 27 or 24 and 28 millimeters. And most people are not those sizes. Most people need smaller. So chances are if your flange size is wrong, then it's probably too big. When people are feeling pain when they're pumping, their first instinct, or something somebody tells them, is to get a bigger size. And they keep going bigger and bigger and bigger, but when it pulls in too much tissue into that tunnel, that can be really uncomfortable too.
Right.
So really you want to err on the side of smaller than bigger. So for my clients, I recommend that they measure their nipple, or if I'm with them in person, I measure it, and I recommend just like 2 millimeters bigger than what their nipple is measuring. And there's even some thoughts. I watched a presentation recently where this IBCLC has her clients get the same size as their nipple measurement. So if their nipple was 17, they would get a 17 millimeter flange. Because her thought is that some of that extra nipple stimulation, rubbing on the tunnel, can actually help get more milk out. So a lot of times pain and discomfort with pumping is because too much tissue is getting pulled in, not because it's too small and it's pinching.
Gosh, I just had a flashback to those pumping days, and you're right. I think it was painful for me. So
yeah, you always try bigger and bigger and bigger,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like pulling in too much tissue. But when it's pulling in too much tissue, it's not stimulating the ducts in the same way that is if it was smaller. So yeah, usually it's people are using too big, and you need to actually get smaller.
And for any new or expecting parents who may not know what a flange is, can you explain what that is?
The flange is the piece that you put on your body that your nipple will get pulled into the tunnel while your pump is on.
Right.
And then, like I said, usually your pump will come with two sizes, but there's other sizes available that just might not be made by those companies. But you could just go online and search like 17 millimeter flange, and you can find ones that are compatible with your pump.
Right.
So that won't be what's in your kit, but you can buy a different size.
Now, what are some tips for pumping? if someone has to pump, if they are now working,
Mhm.
and I remember hearing like, look at a picture of your baby,
Mhm.
or bring clothes with your
Yeah.
baby scent. So what are some
Yeah,
tips
that
you
stuff
can
helps with the oxytocin release. So breastfeeding it's a big hormonal dance. So when your baby is feeding or you're pumping and your nipple is stimulated, it releases oxytocin, which tells these little tiny muscles like, okay, now release the milk, and then the milk comes out. So looking at pictures of your baby, or eating something that you really like, or even just trying to not think about pumping at all and maybe watching a show or something, or something funny on your phone, that helps you relax and helps get that oxytocin flowing. If you find yourself like staring at the bottles, like, how much am I getting? How much am I getting? Like, you're not going to be relaxed. And those stressful hormones are interfering with that oxytocin that you need to be flowing when you're pumping for the milk to be coming out. So I tell people to not even look at the bottles. You can cover up the bottles. You can put like a cover just over your whole, like a nursing cover over everything, or you can cover up the bottles with baby socks, so you're not looking like every single drop that's going
so much sense. That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Because you're like,
it's stressful and you're just
right,
sitting there.
You're watching, as that machine, you hear the machine sucking,
Yes,
and you're
yes.
just looking to see how much milk is coming from your body into
Mhm.
those little bottles.
Mhm.
And it's stressful.
It is, it's really
Mhm.
stressful. And that reflex where those muscles release the milk is called the letdown reflex. And some people that pump a lot will actually just look at their pump or start to turn their pump on and have a letdown response just by looking at their pump. Same that you might hear people when their baby cries, they might
Right.
feel their milk release. Some people
Yes.
when they pump, they just like look at their pump, or they start their pumping routine that they've been doing of having a nice little snack and watching a show, and they'll turn on the show and they'll like have a letdown because that's the show that they watch when they're pumping.
From just looking at the
Yeah,
pump.
yeah.
So
Which
that-
is crazy.
That happened a lot with myself, and I know a lot of moms who I know that they would hear their baby or even another baby cry, and that milk would just immediately start to let down.
Yeah. But I definitely recommend like a good like hands-free pumping bra, or you can even use your nursing bra and just move the straps kind of around to hold it, so you're not just sitting there miserable holding the flanges on, like, oh, when is this going to be over, staring at the milk.
Right.
It's not, you got to make it as enjoyable as possible.
I mean, and nowadays, I can remember even pumping one time in the car, like driving, just plug that car adapter in and you're pumping and no one knows, you're just like,
I know.
It's amazing what we do for our babies.
It is.
So how do you properly store breast milk?
So you can store it, the CDC recommendations are that it's safe at room temperature for 4 hours. So if you pump, or if you're driving and you're not going to be where you are for an hour and it's just sitting in the car, that's totally fine. It can be out for 4 hours. It can be in a cooler for 24 hours. And then it can be in the fridge for up to 4 days.
Okay.
And then it can be in the freezer. They changed this recommendation not super recently, but I've seen people still going by the old one. It used to be, 6 months, it's bad. Now they just say in the freezer 6 months is optimal, just based on how we know that milk changes when it's frozen, but 12 months is acceptable. So it would still be safe to feed at 12 months, and it might even be safe to feed after that, just based on a limited research that we have. It's 4 hours room temperature, 4 days in the fridge, and 6 to 12 months in the freezer. And once you defrost it, it's good for 24 hours. So if you take it out of your freezer, once it's fully defrosted, 24 hours from then. So if you're going back to work or something and you're trying to kind of plan out, when should I defrost milk? How much do I need? I kind of recommend that people store it in smaller quantities. If you have a large supply and you're storing a big, like 6 or 8 ounce bag, which would be a lot, that would be an oversupply in my opinion. Your baby might not drink that much. They might only drink 4.
Right.
So then you could either use those extra ounces like later in the day. You kind of just have to time.
Right.
So I recommend that people kind of store various amounts that they can defrost in different increments based on how much they know their baby's getting from the bottle.
Okay. And again, stick around because we're going to do a demo with some techniques on how to breastfeed while baby wearing. So that is coming up. So let me ask you this, because I've heard, both sides of it. Is it safe to have an alcoholic beverage while you are nursing?
It is. You don't need to buy those little test strips though.
Okay.
Those are probably a waste. The biggest thing is you want to make sure that you are in a safe state of mind to care for your baby. So if you're out all night and you're completely hammered, then you wouldn't want to be caring for your infant in that situation anyway.
Right.
Pumping and dumping doesn't do anything because your alcohol level in your milk is going to be the same as your blood.
Okay.
So if you're like, I'll just pump one time, but I'm still feeling tipsy and I'll feed the baby the next time, that one time that you pumped and dumped didn't remove any alcohol. The alcohol is the same as what your blood is.
Okay.
So if you go out to dinner and you have a glass of wine, your baby's not getting the wine percentage. Your baby's getting 0.0 whatever your blood now is from that one glass of wine.
Okay.
So the general rule that people like to say is if you're sober enough to drive, then you're sober enough to breastfeed, because it's not like you're directly giving your baby alcohol. It's a very, very low percentage.
So you don't need to pump and dump.
No.
You don't need to. Should you wait any amount of time?
I just tell people to wait until they feel, oh, I could probably drive right now.
Okay.
The time that you would need to pump is if you say you're going like wine tasting with your friends and you're in Santa Barbara and you're there like the whole entire day.
Right.
You need to pump because you're away from your baby.
Mm-hmm.
And I would maybe, depending on what your state of mind is and alcohol level is at that time, like label that milk so you know that that's when it was. Because you can use the milk for other things. You can put it in the bath. It's really good for the baby's skin. You can make breast milk jewelry out of it. You can make soap out of it. People do different things with it. If you really were like, I'm not comfortable feeding my baby this level of alcohol in the milk. But yes, in general, it's totally fine.
Don't waste that liquid gold.
That's right. You can always find a use for it.
Right. I love that. Let's see. There was another question. Mastitis, clogged ducts. How do we prevent that from happening?
Having a good flange fit on your pump or a good latch with your baby.
Okay.
The new thoughts about plugged ducts and mastitis is that it's not the milk that's just backing up for some reason. It's inflammation in the breast tissue that's putting pressure on those ducts and not letting the milk to pass through.
Okay.
So you will hear people recommend like massage, use like something vibrating and really dig in there, and like you want to push that milk through. But the new thinking is that we don't want to do that, because when we massage aggressively, we're actually increasing the inflammation in the breast.
Okay.
So what I've been telling people is to treat it more like a sprained ankle. So you want to move the inflammation away. You would never aggressively massage a sprained ankle. That's not what your first thought would be to do. You would be very gentle. Like whenever we're touching our breast, we want to be super gentle. They're not a muscle, they're an organ.
Right.
We don't want to do like a deep tissue massage on them. That's way too aggressive. I've seen people like bruise themselves from aggressive massage, and that's too much. Yeah, it shouldn't be painful like that. So ice is really good, like 20 minutes at a time. You can do heat right before you feed the baby or right before you pump, just to like open things up. But I've been telling people ice, and they're thinking, oh, I thought I need to pump more and do a bunch of heat, but actually ice is what decreases the inflammation, just like how you would do on a sprained ankle.
Okay. Nipple creams.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk nipple creams, because I know I used to use coconut oil, but is there anything that you would suggest if someone is experiencing some irritation in that area?
There's so many creams out there. There isn't any research that shows that one cream is better than another, but we do know that moist wound healing is what is good. So I recommend that people put breast milk on their nipple. I really like those silverette cups, those silver cups that you can wear, because silver is naturally antimicrobial and antifungal. And you can put a couple of drops of milk in the cup and then just wear it. And if you don't have those, you can use like a piece of saran wrap to try to just like keep some of the milk and keep it on there and keep it moist. And then you can put whatever cream on, like in between. Maybe if you're putting milk on, you can do cream at other times, just so your nipple sticking to your bra or to like a nursing pad is such a bad feeling. So you can use a cream, whatever cream feels good to you, you can use. And there isn't one cream that has better properties over another. I don't really recommend lanolin because it's made with like a sheep fiber, and some people are allergic to it. So I recommend some of the other ones that have like calendula and those sorts of things. Like Mother Love is a great one, and Earth Mama, they make a great one too, because some people react to the lanolin, and it's a little stickier. And coconut oil is great because coconut oil also has those antimicrobial properties. And you can use that too to like lubricate the inside of your flange. I had a client that was recently using lanolin to lubricate her pump flange, but she's like, it doesn't really feel like it's doing anything because it's not slippery enough. But coconut oil and olive oil are both, and it's not going to get in the milk, it's just like a drop, are both really slippery, so you can use that to lubricate your pump flange.
Okay.
But yeah, any cream that feels good to you is good to use. You will hear people say, oh, walk around topless and dry out your nipples, but you don't. We want to moisten it from the bottom of the wound and out. Okay. So keeping it moist with breast milk is actually the best thing you can do.
Now, if someone is experiencing, some real soreness, which I know you said you shouldn't be feeling that, when is a good time to think about using a nipple shield?
Nipple shields are also something you might get in the hospital, but they don't really tell you how to use it, and you're just sent home like, I started using the nipple shield, and then...
So, what is a nipple shield?
A nipple shield is a little piece of silicone that has like a little nipple-looking thing. Some of the brands are pointier, like the Medela one is more pointy, and then there's other ones that are more cherry-shaped, they're called, and like rounder and shorter. And you wear it over your nipple and your baby latches on to that instead of latching to your nipple directly. Your nipple still gets pulled into that pointy part or cone or round shaped part. I'm trying to see the questions. Where can you get one if I don't get it in the hospital? I think is what it said.
Yes.
Your nipple will still get pulled into, it will still get pulled into that part that the baby will be latching on. Lots of times people will use it because their baby is having trouble latching. So it's important to know, why is your baby having trouble latching, that you're requiring using the nipple shield. Or other people will use it like you just said, because they're having pain with breastfeeding. So they're using it kind of like a Band-Aid to create that barrier between the baby's mouth and your nipple. But again, like, why are you having pain? What's going on with the baby's mouth that we need to figure out what can be optimized so we're not having that pain. So there's different flows of different nipple shields and different shapes, like I said, and some might work better for others. So again, that's when it's an important time to work with an IBCLC, so they can help you figure out why you need the nipple shield and help you wean off of the nipple shield if you want to wean off of it, because they do become cumbersome. Some people love using them, like, this is what's working for us, I'd rather do this than pump and bottle feed, everything's going great, and they love the nipple shield. And other people are like, I hate this nipple shield so much, I just want to throw it away. One of my clients, her dog actually ate it. I asked her why I said, how did you wean off the nipple shield? Like, that's great. And she said, oh, my dog ate it and I didn't want to buy another one.
Oh my goodness. Well, I will say the nipple shield 100% saved my journey.
They can be so helpful.
It did. And then you're right, it was learning how to wean off of it. But it worked for us through like the first couple of cluster feeds.
Yes.
She would just be feeding like a maniac.
Yeah.
And I was, clearly we didn't have the right latch or something because there was pain, but the nipple shield really helped. And then eventually we got rid of it.
I had a client that was exclusively pumping for 6 or 8 weeks or so, and she said, I just cannot keep this up, and you're my last hope, like you coming over. And I said, well, has anybody tried a nipple shield with you? She said no, and we tried it in her baby latch straight away, and she's like, I was literally going to stop all pumping or breastfeeding unless I used this. So for her it was amazing, and it can be a great bridge while you're trying to figure out the latch and troubleshoot things. But sometimes they're just being used as Band-Aids, and then people don't understand why they're still having trouble. You can get them in the hospital, and then you can get them like on Amazon.
Amazon, Target. I think I would get mine from Target, and mine were like disposable ones.
Yeah,
I think so. It's been. I feel like it's been a lifetime.
I blocked all that out.
Right, but I think I would get mine from Target. One question that wasn't on our list. What is, because this completely caught me off guard with my daughter, cluster feeding.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Cluster
do a lot of cluster feeding, and it can really make you doubt your supply, right? Exactly. Why does she want to eat again? I just fed her 30 minutes ago. What's going on? Cluster feeding is when babies feed like back to back for a period of time, like usually for a few hours, and you're like, I feel like I'm trapped on my couch and I haven't moved, and there's a butt print here, and like I'm just feeding her. So a degree of cluster feeding is normal. Like if there's one time of day, it often happens in the evenings or the night, that your baby's just back to back to back to back feeding, but then they'll do a nice like 3-hour stretch of sleep. That's totally normal. I tell people if their baby's cluster feeding all day, like 24/7, and never seems satisfied, that's when you kind of want to know, are they getting enough, or what's going on that they're constantly, like I constantly have to hold them and feed them constantly.
Right.
But cluster feeding is very normal. There's different theories about like why baby does it. More stimulation increases your supply, so often they'll do it during a growth spurt and they'll just feed back to back, and it's like placing the order at the restaurant for the milk supply. Like, I'm here again, I need more. Yeah, keep it on tap. Lots of babies like cluster feed maybe when they're tired and overstimulated from the day and they just want to be with you and they want to feed all the time. But yeah, it's a totally normal thing, but it's very easy to doubt, like, what's going on? Like, is it because they're not full? But like I said, if they do it for a few hours, but most of the day they're not doing that, and they seem content after most feedings, then it's a totally normal behavior.
Right.
There are so many growth spurts that happen in the first few weeks and months, and
Right.
I know now people go by like the weeks.
Right. Right.
And yeah, I don't know, those things I don't think existed with my other kids, but people like to try to track like when the growth spurts are, and every baby's different, so your baby might not follow that exact like pattern, but usually they're going through some kind of growth spurt or trying to increase your milk supply for some reason.
So with young babies, well, let's just say babies under 6 months of age, is there like a reasonable schedule that you can put them on, feeding schedule, or is it just on
No
demand?
schedule. I actually see a lot of babies that have fallen off their growth curve because they've been put on a schedule, which is convenient for us because we want our baby to fit into our life, and then we want them to fit into our work schedule. That's another thing, like paid family leave in this country is horrible. So you're going back to work and you're really tired, and so you're trying to get your baby on these schedules and all of those sorts of things, but then you notice your milk supply dips, your baby falls off their growth curve. The best thing to do, especially in the first month, first 6 weeks, first 8 weeks, while your supply is really, at that time, your supply is really regulating to what you are demanding with it between the baby and the pump. So it's best to just feed them on demand whenever they want.
Okay.
And it's very exhausting.
That's what my babies did, on demand. I dedicated my life to just feeding them and
It's
changing
so much
them.
time. I know on the Spectra pump, you can now see how much time, like how many hours you've pumped. You can push the buttons in a certain order, and it will be like, you've been pumping for this many hours. And we're like, wow, this is a big chunk of time. They say like breastfeeding a baby for a year is like a full-time job with a 2-week vacation. It's many, many hours. But the best thing to do for your baby's growth and your milk supply is to feed them on demand. When they get a little bit older, you might start to notice like different patterns, and it's okay to have like loose schedules. Oh, I usually nurse them before their first nap, not like it's 9:05, you have to eat right now, but maybe baby's not ready to eat at that time. So just like following their cues and going based on them is the best. After those first 6 to 12 weeks, the hormones that are really there in the beginning that are pushing your body to make milk, because your body doesn't know, did I have one baby, did I have twins, am I not breastfeeding, how much milk am I supposed to make? That hormonal push to make milk is so high, and then it tapers off and it switches to all supply and demand. So it's gonna adjust to whatever you've been demanding of it. So if you've been scheduling your baby and been like very strict, like, no, you have to wait 30 minutes, that's not the schedule, that's not the best thing for your supply.
Right. Good to know. So when do you suggest a parent reaches out to you, or someone like you?
I think they should start before they have the baby. Some insurances will cover up to 6 visits. So you have to check with your insurance and check to see if they will cover visits, and then you can use that coverage for a prenatal breastfeeding class, or like with a lactation consultant, a prenatal consultation, or you can use it towards like purchasing a class. So if you find somebody that you like maybe somebody you found on social media and they offer a course that you can buy, I think it's best to learn about it before you have the baby, when you are not as hormonal and exhausted. Because if you're doing it when your baby's 3 days old, it is just the amount of times I walk into somebody's house and they're crying, and maybe I'm the first person they've seen since they've had the baby, like outside of their baby partner and maybe their mom or something. But it's easy to think, oh, it's natural, so like it'll be fine. But there's just so many little things to learn about it that it's best to learn about it before.
Right.
But if your baby's having trouble with weight gain, that's definitely time to reach out. If your pediatrician is recommending supplementing, but they're not connecting you also with a lactation consultant to help you, you should search for one in your area or one virtually. Those are two really important times in the beginning. Back to work, I love doing back to work consultations just to help you work through storing your milk and pumping and helping you kind of figure out maybe what kind of pumping schedule you could do. That's another good time. Like maybe everything's been going great with nursing your baby and you haven't really had to pump that much. And so now you're feeling overwhelmed with that part of going back to work. That's another great time too.
Right. Another thing that I remember experiencing heavily with my firstborn, there's a certain amount of hormones that go into, obviously, once you give birth, and into milk production. How does that affect potentially like having the baby blues or some kind of postpartum depression? Is there like a link between
There's so many hormones going on. It's not linked to breastfeeding. All of those hormones are going to change no matter what. People that are really struggling with breastfeeding and really having a hard time, that might increase the risk of developing postpartum depression. Overall, we know that breastfeeding in general decreases the risk of having postpartum depression. There's a lot of those feel-good oxytocin hormones that are happening, and a lot of people actually experience some depression and anxiety. I had a lot of anxiety with my first daughter when I weaned her because you're not getting that boost of feel-good hormones all throughout the day anymore.
Right.
So you're going to experience those hormone fluctuations no matter what, whether you decide to breastfeed or not. As soon as the placenta detaches, everything changes and everything's shifting in your body. So the baby blues are usually maybe just feelings that you have for the first like couple of weeks, maybe easily like crying or feeling a little anxious or little things like that. Right. If it's lasting past then or really interfering with your ability to care for yourself or your baby or just do like normal tasks, then that's maybe more when it's getting into the postpartum depression or anxiety, which can actually show up anytime in the baby's first year. It doesn't have to be immediately postpartum. Some people don't get it until later.
Okay, I didn't know that.
There's a screening tool that some OBs, I think all OBs should, but I'm not sure if all OBs do, or maybe like midwives. There's a postpartum depression screening tool that you can fill out, like, I feel this way this often. I actually do it with my clients just because I like to know, and then I ask for their permission to share it with their healthcare provider if I'm concerned. Right. Just to kind of have a standardized tool of how to measure if somebody's having postpartum depression or not.
Really good stuff. All right, let's see. You know what? I think now is a good time. Can you believe it's almost been 45 minutes?
No.
We've been talking.
I can talk about this stuff for hours.
I love it, and I can sit and listen to you. I mean, I just love getting all of the information. I didn't realize there was a tool available.
It's called the EPDS, I believe. I forget what the letters stand for. Something maybe postpartum depression screen. I can't remember for sure, but yeah, it's just maybe like 10 questions, like really simple questions.
I love that. All of the advances that we've made to really, to understand what women are going through and, new parents. Really excited. Sorry about that. All right, so I'm going to actually grab a baby carrier because we're going to now walk through a demo of how we can breastfeed while baby wearing. You said it, so many hours are dedicated to breastfeeding a baby. I mean, on your average nursing session is going to be what, 30 minutes?
Yeah, it can be all over the place. That's another thing that people stress about. Well, now my baby only feeds for 9 minutes, but they used to feed for 16 minutes. Is that okay? And you should always go by the baby's cues. Sometimes they're feeding, again, like a marathon, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and they're actively drinking that whole time. But yeah, baby wearing is very clutch for the cluster feeding time.
It is clutch. Okay, so for myself, once I just learn how to do the two, and I always say to parents, be patient, master your breastfeeding first, master baby wearing, master them both separately before trying to bridge the two together.
Yes.
But I'm gonna grab one of our carriers and do our demo here. I'll move this out of the way. Perfect. Let's see.
Antonio Bruno.
This is Antonio Bruno, right. So I have a soft structured carrier here. This is the Little Baby Complete Carrier.
I should sit down because
I'm actually gonna just try to, oops, raise
really
it a
feels like a little
little.
baby.
Uh-huh. Okay, that should be better.
That should be good.
All right, here we go. We're both, oh, now we're too tall. Gosh, sorry about this.
Here, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you.
Okay. How's that?
That's better.
Better? Okay. It's like, oh, now you see our heads. All right, it's still a little
It's
tall.
a little
Okay.
like angled up, but
All right.
that's okay.
If you have any questions, again, drop them in that chat box. Thank you so much. I cannot have to fix this. I could
going like two up.
Uh-huh. Gosh, I want two. How's that?
No, now my head's cut off.
It's cut off?
But I can sit down.
Okay. Well, I mean, we're about the same height, so I feel like if your head is cut off, okay, that's
You're
good.
in
Just
it,
step-
you're in it.
Just step back.
You're in it. Okay, I'll sit.
All right. So I'm going to start off. So we're going to do the demo with the soft structured carrier. There are many different types of carriers. There's ring slings. There are stretchy wraps. There's woven wraps.
So many.
Right. So many. The best carrier is going to be the carrier that works for you and your baby, your family, your lifestyle. These complete carriers, this particular soft structured carrier is for babies 7 through 45 pounds. So you can take this to the hospital with you, and really start wearing your baby right away. You can wear your newborn in 2 different positions. So you can wear them with their feet in, which is called the fetal carry. You can also wear a newborn with their legs out. This Antonio Bruno is a little bit bigger than a newborn size. He's about the size of, I don't know, what did you say, 3 to 4 month old?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna take him and show you. Now, I will tell you, breastfeeding while baby wearing really saved my life. I mean, I went on very long. I did extended breastfeeding with my daughter, almost to 3 years of age. Can you believe that?
That's so many hours. That's amazing.
That's so many hours. And so many hours of it was done in the carrier. So here we're just going to demo. So I'm just fastening my chest clip here. All right, this is kind of tight. Making some little adjustments. All right, so Antonio Bruno and I are out.
He looks
and
very
about.
comfortable.
We're out and about, right? And hey, he's hungry, okay? So now it's time for us to do our nursing session. So I don't have to go sit on a bench or in my car and feed baby or sit under a tree
Heaven
somewhere
forbid in a bathroom.
or go into a bathroom.
You can breastfeed your baby anywhere.
All right, you
Don't
can
go in a bathroom.
You can breastfeed your baby anywhere. So what I'm gonna do first is, when it's time, is bring him down to the breast level. So the way I'm gonna do that is there's a buckle here on my waistband. So I'm going to loosen this a little, right, to bring him down. He's still a little high because my shoulder straps, so there's shoulder straps here. I'm just pushing up on this to kind of get him a little bit lower, right? So now he's down like at that breast level. If you're larger chested, you may need to get him down a little bit and then really use your hand to bring your breast up. Also, this is really when like a good nursing bra comes in, because you can kind of use that as a shelf to sit right, to prop the breast up. So I'm gonna nurse him on this side, all right? So I'm actually going to loosen. Now you can loosen one side. Oops, I'm not using my safety elastic. You can loosen the same side or the opposite side. It's really gonna be finding your sweet spot. It's gonna look different on every single body type. I would kind of loosen on one side, maybe give it a little bit more on this side, kind of shift him over. And
So you loosen in 3 areas, right? This one.
Right.
And back here. Right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, this is my
To
shoulder
scooch
strap.
him down.
To scooch him down.
And then now you have another one here to loosen.
Yeah, and now I'm gonna just kind of prop him over to the side. And so I can be hands-free. I'm gonna go ahead and just slightly retighten this waistband so I feel like he's nice and secure. I can do the same with my shoulder strap, all right? instinctively, I'm always probably gonna keep a hand here, right? Just because but trust me, once they latch on, they're on. Once they're on, they're on. They're secure in the carrier.
Yeah.
This particular carrier, if you do have a small baby who needs more head support, you do have the headrest here that you can go ahead and flip up and secure
give you
one
more
side.
privacy too.
Right, and then you have a little bit more privacy. Let's talk about what the easiest clothing for easy access.
Yes, things
While
that button are great. You don't need to get only like nursing specific clothes that are made specific for nursing. There's lots of clothes you can get that work really well for nursing. I always liked, which people now call the 2-shirt method, which I didn't know it was called that, but that's what I always did, like with a nursing tank top underneath and then a t-shirt on top, and I would just lift up the t-shirt. But if you're baby wearing, you can't really do that as much. So something that buttons or is open here is really great for feeding in the carrier.
Yeah, I used to wear things I could just like pull down.
Yeah, something with like a stretchy enough
A
collar.
stretchy top or a dress or whatever.
Like a loose tank top, you can pull it this way.
Yep, you can. And the other thing with this carrier and many carriers that I've seen, which I don't have on this one, it does come with a sunshade. If you'll see, there's 2 buckles here. I've taken it off because many times when I'm demoing this carrier, I'm not using it. But there is a sunshade that comes over. Yes, and then it snaps up here. So if you wanted a little bit more privacy, or if baby's going, kind of nodding off and maybe just want to make it a little bit more comfortable for them, you can do that. Then if I want to go to the other side, I can just go ahead and tighten this back, loosen this side, and switch sides. All right, the most important thing after you're done feeding baby, right, is that you want to reposition and retighten baby. So you don't want to keep baby down too low, right? Because when you have your baby in the carrier, you always want to make sure their head is about here. We say close enough to kiss, right? This is not close enough to kiss. I would have to really bring my head down to kiss. Right, and I can't monitor where my baby's nose is, their mouth, if their chin is on their chest. I want to be able to see all of that. So I will go ahead and retighten it. So I usually just put my hand under their bottom and retighten everything that I loosened to get baby in that feeding position. All right, so really important after you're done feeding the baby that you will go ahead and reposition them, retighten your carrier to get them in that safe baby wearing position. Obviously, I would take my baby out and burp them and all of that. You don't want to have a fussy baby because, they can't burp. So definitely taking them out to burp, but when you put them back in, make sure that your carrier is retightened and that baby is in the proper position.
He looks great.
He looks great.
He's got a full tummy.
Yeah, and he has a full tummy. And you guys, truly a game changer. It's, if you're in Target.
Yeah, and you just don't feel as trapped. You feel like maybe you can eat, or you can make dinner, or you can do, I just say that about baby wearing in general, but if they're wanting to feed all the time, if you learn to feed in the carrier, it can be so helpful.
While tending to your baby's cues. Now, is there any proven research, now I know the question to this, but I want to ask you, that skin to skin, baby wearing, that it helps with that milk production?
Yes, because it's those good oxytocin vibes flowing. They've studied moms in the NICU that say that if they do skin to skin with their baby and then put them back in their bed in the NICU and then pump after that, they report pumping more milk than if they just pump and don't do skin to skin before. So it can definitely
Love
help.
that. So many benefits to feeding your babies, breastfeeding your babies, whether that be pumping, bottle feeding, straight from the breast. So many benefits to baby wearing. Thank you so much, Jessica, for joining us, for being our very first guest, actually, on our YouTube
I'm
Live.
so honored.
You have been, I've learned so much. Like I said, I feel like I'm kind of a veteran at nursing, doing it twice, 3 years. second time, but I learned so much today.
I'm
So
so
thank
glad.
you.
Like I said, I could talk about this all day.
So will you please share with everyone again how they can get in touch with you?
Yes, my Instagram is at Good Baby Lactation, and then my website is goodbabylactation.com, and my email is jess@goodbabylactation. And yeah, and like I said, I'm on a break from consults right now, but I'm hoping to be back when I'm feeling up to it after I have this baby.
Doesn't she have the cutest bump? She's like 35 weeks and it's like this tiny little.
Yeah, like due in early October, but I'm hoping maybe at the end of November I'll start to do a little bit of consults. But I have an email list you can join if you go to my Instagram and go to the link in my bio. You can join my email list so that you get a freebie for my tips for the first week of breastfeeding. And then I also have a 3-day weaning email course that you can sign up for too if you're nearing the end and aren't really sure what do I do about weaning. That's a whole other conversation.
That's the next one of these.
Yeah. So yeah, lots of places to reach me.
And then you can find us on Facebook. You can find our community, the Little Baby Love Group, an awesome community of parents and caregivers, supportive, just really great community. So if you're not a member, go ahead and join. Again, also hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, share. Jessica dropped so much knowledge, and I think it's gonna really bless so many parents. So thank you for joining. My name is Aja, and I will see you again very soon. All right, bye.